a brick. Sorry, I have to. Okay. So the date should have been changed to 25. But anyways, so let's start with a review of the pre-midterms exam. So a lot of you did a good performance, somewhere between 80 to 100. There are a few who had 100 points. And I think there's only one or a few who got below 40. Um, so the mean elapsed time is 40 minutes as expected because we had a 45 item quiz and you took 20 minutes. So if we double that and add a few more, so it should be around 40 minutes, but I gave you an allowance of 1 hour. So you had 20 minutes to review. In fact, I allowed the questions to be backtracked. You can go back to your question before actually submitting everything. So in fact, I think some of you were able to check with your notes if you have the right answer and even point out to me that one question actually did not have an answer. Um, so, but it's actually cheating, but since I allowed it, so it's okay. Just for this one because I'm still experimenting in the canvas. That question, which I think there were two persons who pointed this out to me, telling me that this question does not have a right answer. It's true because the answer is supposed to be C and G, but it's nowhere in the options. But if you notice, the closest to C and G are A, which is just like the reverse of C, and E, which is just a something like G, but there's only one crack. Okay, so that's why I allowed this. Actually, I was aware of it, and I wanted to use this to test some of you and to point out something which can happen in a board exam. Okay, so in a board exam, even if you mastered everything, you come across a question which does not seem to have the right answer if you are very strict about it. So what you do is that you select the next best answer. Okay. In this case, the next best answer is A and A because they have similarities. Okay, so a lot of you were able to get that. That's 17 out of the whole lot. But 19 of you answered B and H. Okay, so the H I can understand. The B compared to um, is A is closer to C. Because it's just like you turn over the wood, but for B you have to change the direction of the bend. Okay, so therefore the scores here stand. Okay, there's no extra points or there's no adjustment. So let's go straight to our topic, which is very short. So we will not have a very long session. Brick and brickwork. Okay. Um, Last time I mentioned to you about the hollow blocks being more local than international. In fact, we only use hollow blocks in the Philippines the way that we do it here. But outside, what they use is actually something like hollow blocks, but made of concrete. So it's if you've seen a hollow block, you should have seen a hollow block by now, no? And you get it. Sometimes it crumbles if you grasp it strongly. But in the U.S., for example, their blocks are made of cement, no? Concrete. Um, it's really hard. I think there's a local company that made those types of blocks here. They call it CMUs. concrete masonry units. There was a company, Jack Built, that used to make this type. I don't know if they're still around because apparently until now, hollow blocks is still popular. Um, but before CMUs became popular, so people were using bricks. Okay, so bricks we talk about partly about this last meeting. Masonry unit of clay formed into a rectangular prism while plastic, then hardened by drying in the sun or firing in a kiln. So they dry in the sun in the old ages, of course, when they were still discovering the material. So to make it plastic, you put water so that you can form it. The lesser the water, then um, the more manageable it is to form. But to fire it in a kiln is similar to saying bake in oven. Okay, so this is a very ornate and quaint oven. I decided to show this to you because most ovens actually are not decorative because they're so functional. You just need a hole there in the wall and then a place to put the wood for firing or for burning, and then a place for the brick. So when I saw this, okay, so this is very attractive. It's a very small oven, a very small kiln for the backyard only. Um, but this one is actually more decorative now because otherwise, if you're using this, you'll have ash all around and then soot, and then those plants around it would have died already because of the heat. Because the brick, um, the whole structure will get heated up because of that of the temperature. No, a more realistic kiln would be this, although this is quite big and quite advanced also. So it's already like a vault. Um, and then if you notice, there are tracks. So you have to bring in the bricks using a cart on track. And then if you notice, it's like really a very big oven. So it's like hell inside. You wouldn't want to get trapped inside this. So if you also notice on one side, there are holes. So you can actually look inside, okay, and then make a small check. Um, so the type of kiln varies from something like as big as this and as modern to as quaint as the one or small as the other picture that I showed you. So it depends really on how much bricks you're using. Um, I wanted to show you a brick oven that I saw in Vietnam. This one is just, it's a rural area, so in Vietnam they use bricks for all of their construction work. So it's like the equivalent of hollow blocks. So it's really big. It's like a tower. So they must be like um, they must be firing thousands of bricks at a time. But doing that, the process would probably take so many hours. Okay, putting the bricks in, and then the firing process itself, and then getting the bricks out. Um, the bricks before were used something like hollow blocks. After putting up the wall, you still need to plaster it with stucco or the cement plaster or lime plaster. So and then you don't actually see the brick afterwards. And it's only sometime later when they actually made the brick more decorative. Okay, or they showed the brick because of its um, aesthetic qualities. So bricks made for general building purposes and not specially treated for color and texture are called building bricks or common brick. So then, if you notice, it's very rough, and then the colors are not consistent. So they're meant to be covered later by plaster. Although, of course, some designers would make use of this to have a more industrial look or more cottage look. But normally the bricks are done this way because they're meant to be covered. A facing brick is a brick which is not structural. We have a term for it. It's called veneer, Veneer. No? I should have placed it here in the slides. So it's like you already have a wall, probably made of concrete or some other materials, but then you cover it, instead of plaster, you cover it with bricks. But the bricks this time is special because it does not have the holes um, that you might have noticed in the early pictures, or I'll point it out later. So they're just pure, and then sometimes they can be as thinner than the ones in the picture that I showed you. Um, Also in this picture, this is a bit modern or high tech because each brick is held by mechanically by some pins, no, or some dowels. In reality, or in most cases, in practice, the bricks are just held by um, mortar, mortar, or adhesive, which is a um, an admixture you put into the mortar mix to make the mortar more sticky. No? It's more adhesive. Um, Sometimes they use plain tile adhesive to make sure, but we'll go into the adhesives later. So we have here some different sizes of the bricks. We will not bother ourselves with how the other bricks look, measure, but we'll just concentrate on the regular ones. But for you to know, there are so many varieties. Um, in the topmost, you have three courses of bricks that should equal to 8 inches. So you divide 8 inches by 3, and you get a fractional number of 2 point something. Here the brick is 4 inch by 2.5 by 8 inches. Okay, um, so 2.5 times 3 makes 7.5. So the half inch accounts for the mortar, or the mortar bedding. Okay, and these are some terminologies that you have to memorize for your exam. Okay, so let's start with the SOAP, a brick or tile having nominal face dimension but a nominal thickness of 2 inches. So it's like your brick, you cut it lengthwise, that's your SOAP. But you cut the brick crosswise, that's your BAT. Okay, and then if you have to shape your brick so that it can be part of of an arc, like a bourgeois, the term for it is gauge. Okay, so it's not dressing, but gauge. So you dress a stone, so you gauge a brick. So depending on how the brick is laid out in a wall, so there's a name for the exposed surface. So if the topmost you see that it's laid in the regular manner, so what the face you see is called the structure. Okay, but then if you turn it 90 degrees and you show the shorter side, that face is called the header. Okay, but then if you make it stand along the shorter side, what you see, although it's the same face, because of its position, it's now called a row lock, or there's another name for it here, a roll lock, ROLLOCK. But then if you make it stand along its long side, um, that's now called a soldier. Then you rotate it to show the wider side. Now this is called a sailor. Okay, and then finally If you rotate it again, showing still the wide side, that is called the shiner, or what is here a bull stretcher. But the shiner is more common. Okay. So very easy to memorize. You have to play along with one brick. To some people would put labels on a brick or something like a make a carton version of a brick and then label and then keep on memorizing. Brickwork. So that's we're talking about one brick earlier. Now, what happens if you have a series of bricks? Okay, so brickwork bond is any of various arrangements of masonry units having a regular, recognizable, usually overlapping pattern to increase the strength and enhance the appearance of the construction. So the band is the arrangement of the bricks. So the most common band type is called the running band, which we see here in the drawing. So it shows all the structures, okay, staggered regularly, then alternately. This is also called the structure band because, well, it's all made up of structures. On top, normally we put a soldier course. It's a course is a line of brick, whether it's lying down or standing up like the soldier course. Normally we top a wall with a soldier course just for aesthetic termination, and also it makes it more sturdy. So this is called a stack band because the structures are stacked on one on top of the other. They're not arranged alternately. They're not staggered. And then we have a common band, which is made of a having a course of headers between every 5 or 6 courses of structures. Another name for it is an American band. So you see here the shaded portion are all the headers, and then after that is a row or a course of structures around 5 courses. If you have to cut a brick to unusual size so that it fits the remaining part, no? We call that a closer. So it's a masonry unit specially formed or cut to finish a course or complete the band at the corner of a wall, for example. Another term for it is a closure. Okay. So we already discussed this. The course is the row of brick. And so if you have a continuous course of structures, it's a stretching course. If you have a continuous row of or course of headers, so it's a heading course. A continuous course of headers or bandstones overlapping more than one width of masonry. What is this? What is this term? The white. It refers to the one unit, to the one brick. Okay. I'm sorry. One layer, vertical layer. Sorry. So we have here 2 whites of masonry. It's like 2 walls of masonry. Two layers, 2 vertical layers of masonry. So, but then if you put a brick on top of it that covers the 2, so we call that a band course. Okay. So normally this is used also to terminate a wall. If the wall is only 1 wide, so you can have that what we showed earlier, the header course or the soldier course. But then since there are 2, so you cap it off, you cover it with only one length of the brick. So the ones I showed you earlier, I forgot. I was not able to show a picture of the real brickwork. They're all from normally adopted by Americans, and this one, the next set I'm showing you is more on English adaptation. So we start off with English band. Hmm, sort of reminds you of James Bond. So brickwork band having alternate courses of headers and stretchers in which the headers are centered on stretchers and the joints between stretchers line up vertically in all courses. So simply stated, it's just a course of stretcher alternating with a course of headers. Okay, so I think the uh, the drawing and also the photo is clear. But here's one brick which is called a queen closer. So earlier we talked about a closer, but then here it's called a queen closer. It's a brick of half the normal width used for completing a course or for spacing regular bricks. Also queen closure. Okay, why? Because the closer or the closure is supposed to be found at the corner, so you end up with a very awkward size, so you cut the brick and then close the gap. But then here they wanted the corner to be made of the header. Okay, so therefore the gap is now between the corner and the brick before it. So you insert the regular shaped brick there, and that's called the queen closer. So there's a difference between the two. English cross band, um, a modified English band in which the head joints in the stretching course are offset by half the length of the stretcher, also called Dutch band. So how are they different? Let me check. Um, Here, the the headers are aligned centrally to the stretchers, as you can see. But then there's a gap after each one, no? But they form a regular pattern. But here, they're also aligned. So, but then there is a header inserted along the stretcher. Okay, so that alignment that I mentioned to you is also important because it's part of the definition. Um, there's a header placed along the stretcher. Okay, so if you notice, the second, the middle course of stretchers has a header inserted in it. So this makes it English crossband. So we have a lot of these crossbands later. The Flemish band, a brickwork band having alternating headers and stretchers in each course, each header being centered above and below a stretcher. So again, it has to be centered. Okay, um, and it's easy to understand. Also, the alternating is um, by course, stretcher header, and then they're staggered um, also by course. Okay. So here earlier we have a queen closer. This time we have a king closer. A 3/4 brick for finishing a course or for spacing regular bricks, also king closure. So a closure or a closer is similar to a king closer. But I guess the Americans don't bother with the king and queens, not because they're Americans, but the British have to distinguish between the two. Flemish band course. So how does it? Well, the pattern is very distinct. Let me see how it's defined. A modified Flemish band having courses of alternate headers and stretchers alternately alternating with stretching courses. So the difference probably is that they form this pattern, okay? Uh, Whereas the earlier one is like regular. This one forms pattern of this combination of the stretcher being sandwiched by two headers. And then sometimes the header is some parts are even darker, so we call it flare header. The darker color is could be intentional, as we will see later here. No? So we can also manipulate the color of the brick, and so that we can come up with an interesting pattern. So this is a Flemish diagonal band, um, in which the lines, the courses are offset to form a diamond pattern. Okay, so here there's also another pattern, and which is emphasized by the color of the brick. This is the full name of this is a Flemish garden wall band, but in this book where architect Behek got the illustration, it's simply called garden wall band. So brickwork band for lightly baked boundary walls having a sequence of a header and three structures in each course, with each header being centered over a structure in alternate courses. Okay, so again, the pattern is very clear. We mentioned about colors, so actually you can mix some coloring on the clay before it is fired, so that the colors are actually not natural to the brick. Okay, and here are just some examples of them. Um, as an architect, and if you have the opportunity, you can even experiment, but then that would make it more expensive maybe, unless you know someone who makes bricks and who's a friend. You can also paint bricks. Okay, so it's also possible, and it's also one of the strategies of some interior designers. Um, in the exterior, it's even possible. I've seen some structures where they paint the brick, but then when you paint the brick, you retain the texture. Okay, because what makes it unique is the texture of the brick and also the pattern of the course, no, the brickwork. So you're not going to cover it with putty to make it very smooth. Otherwise, you just have to plaster it with concrete or with cement or lime and then paint over. Or you can also glaze a brick. Okay, cover it with a material and enamel that makes it look like tiles. Okay, so this is a brick tile. So if you notice, this one has holes. I mentioned to you about bricks having holes, but the facing bricks do not have holes. So these ones are like facing bricks, facing structural bricks, but I made that up. So they can be used for the outside to make it very attractive, but they're structural, so it's glazed. In fact, the Persians used glazed bricks. Um, if you have seen, if you remember the gateway of Babylon, the brick entrance is now preserved in a museum, and it shows glazed bricks, mostly blue color, and then accents of gold, and there are also some drawings around on the walls. No? So it's an ancient material. It's nothing new, but you can use it for modern construction, like the design here in the picture. We can also have bricks of different forms, or what we call profile brick. Okay, so you can actually manipulate it, so you're not constrained to the prism, the rectangular prism. But then again, this is a bit rare because people normally use the regular ones. So these are like specialty specialty bricks. Um, you see here a wavy wall made of bricks, so each brick is like bent when it was fired. Um, I think most of this will have to be custom made. Okay, so you need to know someone who's actually manufacturing, not only selling the bricks, and then you can specify what you want. We did that actually in Cebu, but not for bricks, but for clay tiles. No, because we are restoring a very old um, house, and then we have to repair the roof. But then we have to get a sample of the roof and show it to them, and then they have to make a mold for it so that they can replicate it, because a lot of these tiles, roof tiles, have been broken, so we have to replace them. It has to be the exact same size and shape. Okay, so that's possible. We did that in Liloan. We saw a brick manufacturer there. There used to be several of them, but a lot of them already closed their operations. But Liloan, I guess, because they have a river where they get their clay. Okay, so the clay is natural, so they don't just manufacture. They just don't produce it in a laboratory, no. So it's natural. They get it and then they form the bricks. I think this is the last slide. Yep, this. So what's going to happen? Um, what's going to happen next week? So it's a look. It's a wait and see for the PLDT something. Whether we'll have class on Monday or not, if we are going to meet. So tomorrow is supposed to be the start of their maintenance, and actually, even my internet connection is PLDT. So therefore, even if some of you are Globe and you have internet, I might be the one having difficulty. So unless I find an alternate, I have to buy something here. But let's wait and see. Okay, uh, I'll keep you posted of developments. Okay, so here I'm just looking at the chat box. There's not much. Someone says it's cool. I don't know which one is cool, but someone said that it's expensive looking and gray. Okay, so brick is not very expensive, although compared to hollow blocks it is. But you can make it look really expensive. So it's up to you as designers in your design classes. So I guess that's it. We spent more than 30 minutes. If you have some questions, so feel free to ask me through email or to the Canvas or Google Classroom. I still don't know much about Canvas, especially when someone posts a private message. Sometimes I find it hard to look for the message. Okay, although I get a notification, but then when I click it, uh, it disappears. So it's unlike Google Classroom. I know my way around it already. So that's why I think it's better if you need to send me messages, just do it in Google Classroom for now, or can send me a direct message, direct email, any. But at least to let you know that I'm still struggling with Canvas. Earlier, I had to struggle on looking for the result of the pre-midterms just to get that graph. So it took me like 10 minutes looking for it. Okay. So unlike in Google Classroom, it's automatic. Okay. Anyway, Ingong Shane. Yeah. Question.
Sir, I have a question.
Wait,
Hello,
wait.
sir. Ah,
I forgot my. Yes, Shane, you can speak up now.
sir, you mentioned nga our CHB is different sa American nga CHB kay they create it using concrete, 'di ba?
Yes.
Pero 'di ba our CHB means cement or concrete hollow block. So ngano lahi siya.
They don't call it CHB in the US. They call it CMU. It's concrete
Pero
masonry unit. And then
pero
here we
it's
call it concrete hollow blocks. The way we do it here, it's mostly sand. So and a little bit of cement just to bond them together. And even the dimension and the shape is different. So I think it's an adaptation. They try to make, well, probably when they introduced the concrete masonry units here, so the early construction industry decided to adapt to what we have. So if cement is very expensive, there are more sand available, so they invented the CHB. So if you go to the US and you look for the type of CHB we have, chances are you won't find any unless there's a Filipino community. So it's really different. I think the next topic is block and blockworks, and that's where I'll show you the difference. Um, and you can really say that bitaw no. For example, in CMUs, they have a block for everything. Like there's a block for corners, for lintels, for something else. But in the Philippines, there's just one CHB, and then you just like chop it up to form it into something. Okay, and then our hollow blocks really is for like for popular use because it's really, aside from being inexpensive, it's not very sturdy unless you already put it in cement. Okay, so when we put hollow blocks, you put the steel bars inside to help it with the strength. Then you put mortar in the holes and around it and even plaster it. Okay, so you end up actually with like a cement wall, but with sand filling inside just to keep it in place. But in the CMUs, it's all really concrete. Um, it's concrete, so it's almost like a reinforced concrete. So it's more sturdy compared to hollow blocks. I hope I answered your question.
yes
But
sir, thank you.
anyway, but that's our next topic, blocks and blockworks. Still have to look at what other blocks there are in that topic because the architect Behek is the one who made this uh, the syllabus. Any other question? Unless custom made. Mm. So no questions. So there are 35 of you now, which is a good number considering that people are like panicking over the no internet. I think people are panicking more that they cannot play Mobile Legend. Um, anyways, so we'll have to end the session so that we can do more things. I will not give a homework, so you can relax and I can relax from checking also. So no homework for now. Okay, but yeah, we'll have a short quiz next meeting. So whenever that is about this topic. Okay, so goodbye for now and see you next time. I'll stop the recording.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank
Bye.
you.